In the annals of science, a few names rise above the rest, not only for the brilliance of their discoveries, but also for the sheer resilience behind their journey. Among them, one figure stands utterly unique: Marie Curie. She is remembered not only as a pioneering scientist, but also as a woman who shattered barriers in an era when women were seldom welcomed in the halls of academia. Her life story is one of determination, tragedy, and groundbreaking achievement. Marie Curie remains, to this day, the only person ever awarded Nobel Prizes in two distinct sciences, physics and chemistry. Her discoveries of radium and polonium, her research into radioactivity, a term she coined, and her practical contributions during the First World War forever altered both science and medicine. Yet her story is more than a list of accomplishments. It is a tale of courage, of a girl born under foreign rule in Poland who dreamed of knowledge, of a young woman struggling with poverty in Paris but persevering in her studies, of a widow who refused to let grief extinguish her passion for science. Curie's journey reveals not only the triumph of intellect, but also the sacrifices made in pursuit of discovery. Her unrelenting contact with radioactive substances, often handled without the safety precautions we now take for granted, eventually cost her health and life. And yet, her legacy shines brighter than ever, inspiring generations of scientists, especially women, to pursue knowledge without fear or compromise. This is the extraordinary story of Marie Curie, a story of genius, perseverance, and a lifelong devotion to unlocking the hidden powers of nature. Marie Curie was born Maria Salomea Skłodowska on November 7, 1867, in Warsaw, then part of Poland under Russian Empire rule. She grew up in a family of educators who deeply valued knowledge, but who also carried the burden of loss and hardship. Her father, the Ladisław Skłodowski, was a respected teacher of mathematics and physics, a man who introduced young Maria to the wonders of science. Her mother, Bronisława, was the headmistress of a prestigious girls' school, but tragedy struck early. When Maria was just 10 years old, she lost her mother to tuberculosis, and before that, an older sister had died of typhus. These early losses left deep scars, but also gave her a steely resilience that would mark her entire life. The Poland of her youth was a land of restrictions. The Russian authorities forbade higher education for women, and intellectuals faced surveillance and suspicion. Yet Maria refused to be limited by these barriers. She excelled in her studies, particularly in physics and chemistry, and showed a determination far beyond her years. When formal education was denied to women, Maria turned to the Flying University, a secret underground institution in Warsaw that provided education to those excluded from official institutions. There, she nourished her scientific curiosity in defiance of the authorities, risking punishment for the simple act of learning. But Maria's ambitions soon grew larger than what Poland could offer. In the early 1890s, she set her sights on Paris, home to the renowned Sorbonne, where some of Europe's greatest scientific minds were shaping the future of knowledge. The journey was anything but easy. Arriving in Paris in 1891, Maria, who by then had begun calling herself Marie, faced crushing poverty. She lived in an unheated attic room, often fainting from hunger, and wrapped herself in all the clothes she owned to keep warm during the brutal Parisian winters. Despite these hardships, she thrived academically. Within just a few years, Marie had earned 2 degrees, one in physics and one in mathematics. Her professors quickly recognized her brilliance, though few could have predicted that this young woman, once a struggling student from Warsaw, would one day transform the world of science forever. Marie's education in Paris was more than the pursuit of knowledge. It was the foundation for everything that would follow. In those years of struggle, she developed not only the intellectual tools, but also the resilience that would prepare her for the scientific battles and personal trials that lay ahead. In 1894, while searching for a laboratory where she could continue her studies, Marie was introduced to Pierre Curie. At the time, Pierre was already an accomplished physicist, known for his work on magnetism and crystallography. Their meeting was not merely a chance. It was the beginning of one of the greatest scientific partnerships in history. From the start, Pierre was captivated not only by Marie's intellect, but also by her quiet determination. He offered her space in his laboratory, and before long, their professional collaboration blossomed into something deeper. In 1895, they married. Rather than exchanging extravagant gifts, Marie received Pierre's modest offer of a bicycle, a symbol of the simplicity and practicality that defined their relationship. Together, the Curies turned their attention to one of the most mysterious discoveries of the age: radioactivity. A few years earlier, physicist Henri Becquerel had observed that certain uranium salts emitted invisible rays that could penetrate matter. Marie became fascinated by this phenomenon, which no one yet understood. She began meticulous experiments, measuring the intensity of these mysterious emissions with precision instruments that Pierre had designed. It was Marie who first grasped that the radiation was not the result of chemical reactions, but rather something embedded deep within the atoms themselves, a revolutionary idea at the dawn of nuclear science. Her investigations led to a startling conclusion: uranium could not be the only element with this strange property. If true, that meant new, undiscovered elements might be hiding within the ore. Together, Marie and Pierre worked with pitchblende, a heavy, black mineral. For years, they processed tons of it in a makeshift shed that was little more than a converted storeroom. The work was backbreaking. Day after day, they stirred boiling vats of crushed ore, enduring suffocating fumes and bitter cold. Yet out of this laborious process emerged a discovery that shook the scientific world. In 1898, the Curies announced the existence of polonium, a new element, named by Marie in honor of her homeland, Poland. Later that same year, they identified another, even more powerful source of radiation, radium. These findings propelled the Curies to international fame. But Marie's role was not always fully acknowledged. In 1903, when the Nobel Committee first considered awarding a prize for the discovery of radioactivity, only Pierre and Henri Becquerel were nominated. It was Pierre who insisted that Marie's name be added. And so, in December of that year, the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded jointly to Marie Curie, Pierre Curie, and Henri Becquerel. For Marie, it was not just recognition of her scientific brilliance. It was a symbolic victory for women in a field that had long excluded them. Yet her work was only beginning. Tragedy struck in 1906 when Pierre Curie was killed suddenly in a street accident, run over by a horse-drawn carriage. Marie was devastated. She had lost not only her husband, but her closest collaborator, the man with whom she had shared both her scientific dreams and personal struggles. Many expected her to retreat into grief. Instead, Marie channeled her sorrow into work. She took over Pierre's professorship at the University of Paris, becoming the first woman ever to teach there. Standing in lecture halls where women had once been excluded entirely, she inspired a new generation of scientists by sheer example. Her research did not stop. Marie refined the methods for isolating radium, achieving purity levels never seen before. She systematically investigated the properties of both radium and polonium, carefully documenting their behavior, their radiation, and their potential applications. At a time when the structure of the atom remained a mystery, her work was laying the foundation for the entire field of nuclear physics and the future of radiation therapy in medicine. But recognition came at a price. In 1911, she was embroiled in a scandal when rumors of her personal life spread in the French press. Yet, despite the hostility and the attempts to discredit her, the scientific world could not ignore the magnitude of her discoveries. That same year, the Nobel Committee awarded Marie Curie the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for her discovery of radium and polonium, and for her pioneering methods of isolating radium. With this, she achieved what no one before her had: 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 separate sciences. She stood alone in history, a symbol of perseverance and brilliance. But beyond the glory of awards, Curie's work had far-reaching consequences. Her investigations helped open the door to modern nuclear science, while also pointing to medical applications that would transform cancer treatment. Despite the acclaim, Marie remained modest and devoted to her work. She often refused wealth or comfort, declining to patent her radium isolation process, believing that scientific discoveries belonged to all humanity. This selflessness only deepened her reputation as a scientist motivated not by fame or fortune, but by a relentless pursuit of knowledge and its potential to help mankind. As the world moved closer to the outbreak of war, her discoveries would soon find a new and urgent purpose, not in the laboratory, but on the battlefield. When World War I erupted in 1914, Europe was plunged into chaos. The battlefields stretched across the continent, and with them came unprecedented casualties. Soldiers wounded in combat often faced grim prospects, not only from their injuries, but from the inability of doctors to see inside the body and properly locate bullets or shrapnel. Marie Curie, already world-renowned for her work in radioactivity, refused to remain confined to the laboratory while millions suffered. She saw that her discoveries could be turned into life-saving tools. X-rays, which relied on the penetrating power of radiation, had been discovered just a few years earlier. With her knowledge, Marie realized that mobile X-ray units could transform wartime medicine by allowing surgeons to identify injuries with precision before operating. She organized a fleet of mobile radiography units, later nicknamed the Petites Curies. These were vehicles equipped with X-ray machines, photographic darkrooms, and generators powered by car engines. But this was not merely an invention she passed on to others. Marie herself trained tirelessly to become a skilled radiologist. She even learned to drive so that she could personally take the units to the front lines. Alongside her teenage daughter, Irene, she set out for the battlefields of France and Belgium. Together, they not only operated the equipment, but also trained dozens of doctors and nurses to use it effectively. By the end of the war, it's estimated that over 1 million wounded soldiers had been treated with the aid of Curie's mobile X-ray units. For countless men, her work meant the difference between life and death, or the chance to return home rather than suffer permanent disability. Her contribution went beyond the machines themselves. She also established training programs, ensured hospitals were supplied with stationary X-ray units, and worked relentlessly despite the exhausting conditions. Many recalled her driving along muddy roads under bombardment, determined to reach soldiers in need. Though she never sought military honors, Marie's service during the war revealed a side of her character beyond science. a profound humanitarian spirit. She applied her genius not only to discovery, but to compassion, using her knowledge for the most immediate of human needs. Yet the very radiation that saved lives during the war was silently taking a toll on her own health. Unaware of the long-term dangers of exposure, she worked without protective measures, handling radioactive substances daily and spending hours beside powerful X-ray machines. This devotion to science and service would eventually carry a personal cost. After the war, Marie Curie returned to Paris and to the work that had defined her life. In 1914, just before the conflict began, she had founded the Radium Institute, today known as the Curie Institute. After peace returned, she dedicated herself to making it a center for both cutting-edge scientific research and medical applications of radioactivity. The institute quickly became a beacon of innovation. There, Curie trained a new generation of physicists and chemists, many of whom would go on to make major contributions to science. Under her direction, the institute also pioneered the use of radium in cancer treatment, offering new hope in the battle against a disease that had long been untreatable. But despite her fame, Curie never sought luxury. She lived modestly, often refusing to capitalize on her discoveries. She declined to patent the process for isolating radium, insisting that knowledge should serve humanity, not private profit. While her work brought prestige, it never brought wealth, and the Radium Institute often struggled with limited resources. By the 1920s, her health began to decline. For decades, she had handled radioactive materials without protection, carrying test tubes of glowing radium in her pockets, storing them in her desk drawer, marveling at their eerie light. She also spent countless hours beside X-ray machines during the war, never suspecting the dangers. The cumulative exposure gradually ravaged her body. In 1934, at the age of 66, Marie Curie died of aplastic anemia, a disease caused by prolonged radiation exposure. Her passing marked the end of an extraordinary life, but her legacy was only beginning. She was laid to rest beside Pierre in Soz, near Paris. But in 1995, in recognition of her monumental contributions, her remains were moved to the Pantheon, the resting place of France's greatest national heroes. Marie Curie thus became the first woman interred there for her achievements. Her influence extended through her family as well. Her elder daughter, Irene Joliot-Curie, followed in her footsteps, winning the 1935 Nobel Prize in Chemistry alongside her husband Frédéric Joliot-Curie for their discovery of artificial radioactivity. Her younger daughter, Eve, became a writer and humanitarian. In this way, the Curie family became a dynasty of science and service, with 5 Nobel Prizes shared between them. Today, Marie Curie's name is etched not only in history, but in everyday life. Hospitals, research centers, and scientific awards around the world bear her name. She stands as a symbol of the power of intellect, perseverance, and humility. Marie Curie once said, "Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood." Now is the time to understand more, so that we may fear less. Her life embodied those words, a life of discovery, courage, and unyielding devotion to science, leaving a legacy that continues to illuminate the world.